Welcome to another episode of The Breakdown. Today I am joined by Molly McCage. If you don't watch volleyball, I think this makes you go, what was that? And if you do watch volleyball, this is one of the most exciting sets in the game, the slide. Tell me a little bit about it, what it looks like, how to know what it is.
Yeah, so a slide is the middle going behind the setter, and it's kind of like a layup. So I'm running off one foot. I also liken it to, like, if you ever did track, I used to do high jump. And so it's the same kind of move, like you're running off one foot. And honestly, I've always been more athletic off one foot, which is kind of funny because as a middle, you're hitting off 2 feet. As a volleyball player, you're hitting off 2 feet most of the time. But this slide set, I think, translates to a lot of different sports. And then people who aren't familiar to volleyball are like, wait, what? That's part of volleyball? It's one of my favorite sets as a middle. It's kind of like a rhythm set, I think. And you got to get a setter that's like willing to set it and chuck it back there.
What makes it so difficult to master?
I think it's one of those, you have to have faith in the set. So it's a run and chase kind of set. And you just kind of have to build that relationship with your setter of like, chuck it back there and I'm going to trust my speed so that I can, plant off one foot and get out there. It's also, you got to have a good amount of body control. I think because you're flying, you have to locate this ball as you're in the air, which is something that middles do often, but especially this slide, there's just like a lot of room for error. But if you trust your speed and trust the setter, I think it can be really successful.
So this first one we're going to look at, you're on Team Nutsara. You're with the star Thai setter who is known for being crafty and especially quick. You two have a great connection. I think is that one of the things that makes it so successful when you're playing with her?
Yes, I love her is that she can be anywhere from the court, and I'm screaming for this set because it's my favorite set. As a middle, I want to get set as often as I can. I'm in the game half the time, and she's just so accurate. So she could be anywhere on the court, and she'll just fling it back to me, and I know that it's going to be money.
So let's slow this rally down. Talk to me through the pass to the set to making the connection on the slide.
Yeah, absolutely. Saskia with the tough serve. So it's off the net already, and Newt flings it back to me. I think I could have waited a little bit longer because she's off the net and pretty far. So she's all the way in zone 3-4 off the 10-foot line, and she's chucking it back to me. So this is basically out of system. So I have a pretty solid block in front of me. I'm trying to swing high hands, but I wasn't successful at first. They cover it. They get an out of system play. And then this is basically in transition. But again, Newt goes back to me, which I love. A setter that goes back to me if I don't make the kill on the first play. I am the kind of middle who's screaming for the ball every single time. Because if I do that, it's one of those things, if you're calling for the ball, you're more likely to kill it, in my opinion. If you're that call is giving you confidence. It also just fakes out the middle blocker. So it's a win-win for me. If I get the middle to bite, yes. If she sets me, even better.
When you're hitting the slide, do you mostly hit it cross court? Do you hit it line? Is it kind of 50-50 the angle that you get on it?
I think it's I look at my blocker before every serve receive, and I'm like, oh, is that a good slide blocker or not? Does she like to go all the way out to the pin or not? So I know that Betty goes all the way out to the pin on me on slides almost every time. So I'm going to have cross on Betty. And then some middles are just going to follow me wherever I go. And so I'm like, okay, I'm generally going to have 2 blockers on this. It's probably best to go high hands or something around them. And then it's indicative of the set. If it's inside, I'm probably not going to be able to swing line. And so I'll just try to get on it as quick as I can, in the middle of the court. Our setters, I feel I'm so blessed to have setters. One, to just trust me and fling it back there. But 2, and are willing to push the speed because I expect it to be fast every single time. Even out of system, I'm shoot it to me. Fling it back. I'm ready. And that kind of setter I feel is hard to come by. So I love this one, and that Newt again is off. I start kind of in the middle of the court, but then I'm oh, she's coming off, and I get even deeper.
You start closer to the outside position than you do even the middle of the court of this. I mean, you're almost all the way over there.
I know. I give myself a nice runway. So I get almost in the middle of the court, deep 6. But then, that just gives me so much room to, charge at this ball. And, that speed is just going to give me power. Freaking love this slide so much. I knew that Newt was going to fling this back to me because she loves doing this. If you watch, is that Karis on the other side? Of course, she took a step to the outside because, that ball is, pushed all the way over there. And so I knew that, yes, it was a higher set on this slide, but luckily I just had line and I I think I got Noma's face. I'm so sorry, Noma. I love it because I have such a giant runway, and I can just go get this ball. I don't think middles get the chance to do that often. It's so fast. A one and a gap and a back one are all so fast that you don't always get your full body into it. Whereas I'm jealous for the pins. They get this giant runway. You get the monster powerful swing, and I feel like slides are that version for the middle. I don't think I got great at slides until end of my college career / overseas. It was I had high-level setters. I think to push that kind of speed overhead for a setter is a pretty high-level skill to begin with, even in system. And then to do it at a system and have that trust, to be at a system, fling it overhead, and at a speed that is still the slide set. It's something throughout my career that I've been able to play with and just trust that I'm just gonna go and I don't know. I love the creativity of these setters that I'm able to play with that kind of the slide set and the athleticism of it.
High school level, starting to run the slide, maybe wanted to add it into their repertoire. Where do they start with their body to learn?
Yeah, I guess we can break it down. So this set, I've played a lot with what my arms should be doing. Should I have a traditional approach where they both go back? What generates the most power for me? And it still is just running. I played basketball growing up. I did high jump. And so that running off one foot is kind of natural for me. And I think it is for a lot of athletes, if you've played different sports. So lean into that. I think it's just as you're running, you want to generate power with your arms. And then it is very important whenever you're jumping off that one foot, if you bring up your right foot, it has to be up. It cannot be out. So if you go out and if your knee drives towards the pole, then your window is smaller, right? You're going to broad jump a little bit because you're just running that way. So as you're running the slide, your hips are probably going to be facing the pole to begin with. But as this ball and as your right knee is coming up, you want to finish and kind of face your hips towards the net.
To make this connection with your setter, does it just need to be practice ins, time in the gym, let's just run this over and over so you two make that connection, whether it's on your club team or your high school team, even your college team too?
Yeah, I think it's what was helpful for me, and actually Coach Cry helped me a lot with this, is that my timing should always be the same. So I always want to be rolling into my second step as the setter is contacting the ball. Or my second to last step, sorry. I always want to be rolling into my second to last step as the setter is contacting the ball. And so that consistency, the setter can now figure it out. So that's the same for all middle routes, is that I always try to be the exact same every single time. And if I need something different, I say it in the middle of the rally. Hang it up, I'm late. But every single time has to be the same, and then that's how you build the trust with the setter. I don't think it should be the other way around ever. I think the middle should always be the consistent one.
That's great advice. Yeah. Thank you, Molly. I appreciate your insight into the slide and breaking it down for us.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.